Hey, what the fuckers? Hey, what the fucks? Hey, what the motherfuck? Oh, wait a minute. Wrong podcast. That's not me. That's the great Mark Maron. Been seeing him lately at the store. Mark is a good hang. There's a lot of people gone from the Comedy Store, and not that many people to hang out with anymore. All right, Greg, get your energy up. Come on. Sorry, it's been rainy here in LA. It's made me lethargic. Woo! Excited about my guest today, Veer Das, all the way from India. He flew in from India to do my podcast. We recorded it last week. We'll talk about him in a minute. Thought of a good tweet today. I just put it out. It's a celibacy. They threw a celibacy convention last week. Nobody came. It's not bad. Didn't get much response on Twitter. Is Twitter dead? Is Twitter over? I kind of feel like it is. I forget to go there. And then once in a blue moon, I think of a tweet and I put it up. And it doesn't get much activity. I like Instagram a little bit better. I don't know if I'm on TikTok. I think the fine people at Midcoast Media are supposed to put stuff up there. I don't know if they do. I should check. Busy weekend. I had a fucking fun weekend just in the neighborhood. This is the best part. It was rainy, but there was a lot of shit to do just walking distance. We had a poker game on Thursday night over at Josh's house, and I won big. I won a bunch of big. Part of it is my friend John Martin is in town from Virginia, and we call him the human ATM machine. Worst poker player of all time. You can read his face like a fucking Kindle, and he stays in hands he has no business being in, and it is a goddamn pleasure having him back. He was in our game for 15 years, and then he moved about probably 5 or 6 years ago. They moved to Virginia, and so he was in town, and cha-ching! Thank you, John Martin. Well, a lot of people lost to me. I was hot, baby. I was fucking hot. And the kind of the joke in poker is if you're way ahead, then you're not allowed to leave the game. You can't just like win a few big pots and then fucking cash out. It's not the way it's done. So I won like 3 hands in a row, and I had a nice stack. And then I answered my phone, pretended to answer my phone, and I was like, "What? You want to suck my dick now? You're dying to give me a blowjob? But honey, I'm with the guys. I can't." And that became my running joke all night. Just thought I'd let you know. Fun game. And then as I'm walking home, I bought the chips, and I have a big metal case with poker chips in it. And my son borrowed it one night, and he dropped it, so it doesn't close well. And I'm walking down the sidewalk, and it's pitch black. It's 1 o'clock in the morning, and the case opens, and a fucking 1,000 chips fall all over the sidewalk, under somebody's white picket fence. The cards everywhere, 3 decks of cards everywhere. And my friends just stood around and laughed while I picked them up. No help, just laughter and jokes at my expense. I played, so we had a little bit of sunshine on Friday, so I ran down to the paddle tennis courts with my friend Ben, played some paddle tennis, and Dennis Gubbins, who's just everywhere. He was everywhere. Everywhere I went this weekend, Dennis Gubbins just made a cameo. He's riding his bike past the paddle tennis courts. He comes in and plays with us. And the big scandal is that people might not know what paddle tennis is, but if you've heard of pickleball, before there was pickleball, the same size courts are being used for a sport called paddle tennis, which you use a small paddle and you take a tennis ball and you leak the air out of it. You take a hypodermic needle and you leak the air out so it doesn't bounce as much because the court is so small. Anyway, so now the pickleballers are starting to come down and try to play on the paddle courts. But here's the thing about Venice Beach is like there's kind of some attitude with the courts. There's a lot of people that's their life. There's some homeless people that play. There's people that are 1 foot out the door and their life is playing paddle tennis, and they will defend these courts with their life. I have held my paddle over my head in a fight with somebody once. We almost started fucking whipping paddles at each other. So anyway, there was some shit talking because somebody was playing paddle, and because there's not enough room for everybody. It's crowded. So, played some golf in the rain. Once again with Gubbins, Fitzgibbon, bunch of guys. And then went to a party. Matt Malloy's back in town. My friend who's on that show, Alaska Daily, with, what's her name? Hilary Swank is the star on ABC. So he's been out of town for like 9 months. And he's been shooting that show, and he's back, and he threw a party at his house. It was great to see him and his beautiful, lovely wife, Cass Donovan. They're such good hosts. And he had a couple of the cast members from the show are staying with him. So it was fun to hang out with them. I love the show. It was fun to hang out with them. Zach Galifianakis was back in town for the first time in literally since the pandemic. He fled during the pandemic, and he's back in town for a little bit. So I hung out with him and his very cool boys. He's got little boys that are cute, and we played Uno together. And who else was there? Oh, my friend Belinda, who's a cancer survivor. She spent the last 3 years. When you say battling cancer, she fucking battled it. It was in her brain and her eye. And she somehow, through tenacity, I don't want to say that because somebody made that comment that, like, if you say somebody battled cancer and they won, does that mean if your friend died, he lost, like he's a loser? So I guess I shouldn't frame it in those terms, but I was so happy to see her, and she looks amazing, and she's a great person. You might follow her. She's chronicled the whole thing on Instagram. Her name is Belinda Weymouth, and she's Jake Johansson, the comedian, his wife. She's from New Zealand. And she's in great spirits. Had a good hang with her. Mike Gibbons told her he thought that she was dead. Like he Do you tell somebody that? Do you say, oh my God, I'm so happy to see you. I thought you died. Because it was that close. So she was laughing about that. Cancer survivors like to laugh. That's what I've learned. They are ready to fucking laugh. Gubbins showed up to the party. It was pouring rain that night, and it was on one of the walk. Matt lives on a walk street, and so the walk streets, it's a sidewalk with houses on either side, and they flood. And everybody knew to come down the back alley into the back door, except Gubbins, who walked down the sidewalk, and it was almost knee deep in water. So he was barefoot at the party. What else did I do this weekend? Oh, watched a lot of football. Great football games. It's the playoffs, wild card games this weekend. I picked every single. I don't know why I don't gamble with somebody besides Gibbons, because I was fucking right on every game except, of course, the New York Giants, because they are spoilers. Never bet the Giants. They will lose games they should win, and they will win games they should lose. You cannot bet the fucking New York Giants. So they beat Minnesota, so I know Nick Swartzen is very bummed out. But I was happy to see a lot of good games. And then we went and we took a walk on Sunday, me and Aaron and our friends. We're friends with this couple that lives a block away. We take walks on Sundays because we're old. So we go for long walks together. And we walked all the way to Penmar to the golf course where JoJo is a waitress. She started out just working at the coffee station, and now she's been promoted to waitress. And so she waited on us on her first day, and she did good. And big tip. And guess who showed up at the end of the meal? Dennis Gubbins. There he is. There he is. And what? And then during the football game yesterday, I'm friends with my friend's nephew. Has an intellectual disability, and he's the sweetest kid in the world, Oliver. And so he and I text a lot. And he's in town. He's been out of town in Vermont, and he's back in town. And so I met him and his mother and his sister is just the sweetest girl. And we had the nicest time just hanging out at Lemonade, this restaurant. And he just puts a smile on my face. He made me a spoon. He does woodworking, and he custom made me a spoon, which was very sweet. So what else? I just did a lot this weekend, but excuse me. Big announcement. I announced it on Sunday Papers, but I'm going to proudly announce it here as well. I am doing another 1-hour special. It's been a long time since my last one, maybe 5-6 years. And I'm shooting it at the world famous Comedy Store in the original room, probably the room I feel most comfortable in the whole country. And we're going to set up 5 cameras, and we're going to do a Sunday night, 2 shows. The club is normally closed. We're going to open it up, do a couple shows. I'm going to get some people. I'm going to get some hot shots to open for me because I want the crowd hot. Santino's going to come down. And I'm going to do all the best material since the last special. So it's going to be, I'm excited to do it and then burn it and then put that material behind me and start a whole new hour for my dates later this year. So that's it. It'll be out. I'll discuss how it's going to come out soon. But if you want to come see the special, it's going to be February 5th at the store. I think ticket link goes up later this week. If you want to get tickets and come out, that'll be a lot of fun. It'll be historic. Shout out to Peter Lee, my son's friend. He graduated high school with him, and this kid has gone on to work as a photographer for one of the top photographers in Venice. And now he's starting his own little projects. And so he shot some really nice photos of me. I want to thank him. All right, here's a note from Felicia. Oh, Greg, you sounded so cocksure when you said, I like that word, cocksure, when you said The Human Stain was written in the 60s. The novel was first published in May of 2000. I, too, love the book and agree it certainly, if perhaps unknowingly, shed some early light on the woke society we've been dealing with over the past few years. I assume you know that Philip Roth himself was a rather problematic guy. However, he wrote some mighty fine novels that I will continue to cherish. Yeah, great book, Human Stain. I mentioned it on the podcast. I didn't know. Maybe did he get canceled? Oh, I got to look that up. That's a shame. All right, let's do some overheards. Okay, Danny Bark said, I walked into a convenience store and a man talking to the women behind the counter half yells, Christmas is going to be just like she is, a huge bitch. They all have a good laugh. I have no comment on that. Speaks for itself. Morgan Hradecki says, I was sitting in a bar in Kauai last week and overheard a couple guys talking about the waitress. She was from the UK by the sounds of her voice. One guy said she was pretty hot, huh? The other one goes, I guess. And the accent makes a 4 a 7. Yeah, I think it depends on the ad. Does a British accent give you points, or does it? I think it depends on what part of England. A Cockney accent on a woman, like I've watched that show, Love Island, and those accents do nothing for those women. I think you lose points on the Cockney accent. But if you've got like a Helen Mirren type of an accent or a Kate Winslet, then you're upgraded. If you got a German accent, very tough to make up for a German accent. There's nothing sexy about Unstein. I was talking to somebody about this. I think French is the sexiest one. If you were to maybe Italian, I think Italian and French are the accents that add the most appeal. I don't know if it's the same for men. having accents, but as far as women go, I'll take those. And a pretty Irish accent, oh, break my heart. Chelsea Heath. Walking into the library, two young women sitting in the lobby talking. One says to the other, yeah, that's just him trying to show his power. Never take money from a man unless he's your sugar daddy. So this sugar daddy thing, just so you know, it's no joke. I'm friends with a guy who I owe a phone call to, and he's rich. He's in construction. He's Italian. He's connected, let's just say. And he's friends with a lot of guys that are high rollers, and they keep women. Like, they pay for a woman's apartment in Manhattan, like a model type woman that's maybe in college. And then when he's in town, they go out to dinner. They go to a nightclub. She's there for him. Her schedule is free when he's in town. That's the deal. Some of these guys have kept women in a couple cities. And, you know, is that illegal? I mean, what's prostitution and what's dating? What's a marriage in some cases? Tough to say. You know who gets a lot of shit is Neil Young has a song called A Man Needs a Maid. And he gets shit for that being kind of sexist, that you can just hire a woman to take care of all your needs. And I just bought Harvest. He's not on Spotify anymore because he doesn't like Joe Rogan. And so I went ahead, and I miss his music so much that I went ahead and bought Harvest. I spent the $10 on Apple Tunes, and I bought it. Apple Music, what do they call themselves now? And I listened to that Harvest album. Man, is that a perfect album. Holy shit. Ryan J. said, at my son's Boy Scout meeting, listening to everyone talk about what badges the kids could earn at summer camp, one of the ladies mentioned a motorboating badge. Being the only immature person in the group, I damn near lost it. Had to bite my lip to keep from busting up as they mentioned it over the next several minutes. Yeah, that's good. Motorboating. I mean, that sounds to me like what the older, what do you call the older scouts? The Eagles? That's what the Eagle Scouts get. You know, when you're 18, like these Eagle Scouts are like 18 years old and they're still wearing the fucking khaki shorts and the little yellow handkerchief, whatever they call the thing around their neck. And that's the kind of badge you get when you're an Eagle. You get a waterboarding, a hand job, third base. Got to design those. All right, let's get moving. Let's get to it. Some dates coming up. I'll be in Atlanta at the Punchline this weekend, January 19th through 21. Portland, Oregon at Helium Comedy Club, January 26th through 28th. And then I will be in La Jolla at the Comedy Store, February 2nd. This is a brand new date. Get your tickets. Again, the special will be taped February 5th at the Comedy Store in Hollywood. Then I'm coming to Philadelphia and Boston in the spring. Tickets at Fitzdog.com. Also, would like to take a quick second and thank our sponsor for today's show, which is Sheath Underwear. They sent me a few pairs of these sheath. I gave a pair to my nephew, which sounds creepy, but he was so impressed when I told him about them. You put them on, and they get to know your body. They hold it. They cradle it. There's a pouch for the testicles, and there's a pouch for the shaft. And you put it on, and it holds you in place with this beautiful, I think it's like a bamboo fabric. I don't want to say that. I don't see that in the copy. I forget what it's made of, but it's super comfortable. They're boxer briefs. It's mesh and bamboo. It's amazing. They breathe. It's like when I'm going to go work out, those are my workout underwear. But I hate to use them up because then I want to wear them to the club too. They're the best. You have to get one pair and it's going to change your life. The most comfortable boxer briefs you'll ever put on your body. It's stretchy, it's moisture wicking, super soft, everything cool and comfortable in the right place. I am wearing a pair of sheath underwear right now as I speak. And every time I hear, my wife thinks there's something wrong with me because when I put them on, I run around the house. It's the only underwear that I own. I got rid of all of them. I just hand wash these 3 pairs that I have. Yeah, I do. I run around the house like a superhero. That's what I feel like with my sheath underwear. Go to sheathunderwear.com. Get the most comfortable underwear you'll ever wear. If you use the promo code Fitzdog, F-I-T-Z dog, you'll get 20% off your order. That's sheath, S-H-E-A-T-H, underwear.com, promo code Fitzdog for 20% off your order. You'll thank me later. Okay, my guest today, I just met. It's funny because I met him. He came to my studio. We did the podcast, and then the next morning I went to do Corolla, and he was the other guest on the Corolla podcast. He's out promoting like crazy. He's got this special that's really good. I highly recommend it. He also did a speech called the Two Indias speech at the Kennedy Center, which went viral and got charges pressed against him in India. But he's funny as shit. He's a legit headlining good comic. He became like a star in Bollywood, and then he got into stand-up. He's done 18 films. He's got 3 specials, and I had a blast talking to him. Please enjoy Veer Das. Welcome to the podcast, Veer Das.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure. I'll tell you, it's so funny because I've been doing stand-up for 32 years.
Good Lord.
And I've seen a lot of comedy, and it's funny because you can start to... how long have you been doing it?
16.
Okay.
Yeah.
You can start to get jaded and go like, I've seen everybody that's good and everybody that's new sounds the same and all that. And especially you can get, I think, a little bit, what do you call it when you only love your own country?
Egocentric? No.
No.
Insulated?
Insulated about your own country.
Yeah.
And then I see you, and then I see this guy from India doing stand-up comedy, which I didn't even know. I knew, obviously, Russell Peters, and there's a handful of Indian comics that I appreciate.
Yeah.
And Russell's obviously a great comic. But, I mean, I was just blown away by your special. It was so good.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
I mean, jokes, hard setup, punchline jokes.
Can I just start by saying it is so good to talk to comedians, like at the end of the day, because... sometimes when a special is about more than just, or like a story, people are like, oh my God, tell me about your truth or tell me about your... And comedians are like, no, there's fucking jokes in it.
Yeah, give me some jokes, please.
Right?
Yeah.
So it is so good to be sitting down with a comic.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that.
Yeah. So tell me about where did you get your chops? Was it mostly in India, or where did you make your bones in stand up?
I'm making them now. Like my whole career has gone reverse. So I was perhaps like anyone here. I'm like a Pryor fan. I love Carlin. I love like Eddie Izzard, and I was just watching these guys through college. And I went to this very sort of sit in a circle and cry American drama school. Very Stanislavski and all of those things. And
in New York?
In Galesburg, Illinois.
Okay.
The mecca of civilization.
Yeah, right. And when I think of great actors, they all come out of Galesville, Illinois.
Yeah, which is when you watch the nice movies about America, you're like, I'm going to go to America for college one day.
Yeah.
It's going to be just like Van Wilder.
Yeah, right.
Then you get into Chicago and you leave the fucking airport.
Yeah.
And there isn't a building for 3 hours.
Oh, shit.
And you get to Galesburg.
Wow. How did you pick that school?
Financial aid. My parents
got
couldn't afford to send
financial
me,
aid.
so they gave me like a 96% deal to come there.
They wanted Indian students.
Yeah. So it was this really liberal arts, only 1,200 kids, purely residential.
Yeah.
Pride themselves on reading more than Harvard every week. Just one of those places.
So it was a lot of homework.
A lot of homework, but they're like, no, we're going to pick kids from everywhere. So truly diverse school.
Yeah. Right.
So they gave me, I think I came to college for like $3,000 a year.
Really?
Which is all my parents could afford, right?
No shit.
Yeah. So, I think they gave me like $24,000 a year.
Nice.
In, in scholarships.
How were your grades?
Terrible. I got screwed over. I can cuss on this thing and all of that.
Yeah,
So
fuck yeah.
I got fucked over by this one teacher who changed my life, right? So I got in and they were like, you have to do economics and you have to be on the dean's list.
Yeah.
These are the two things that are contingent to your scholarship.
Dean's list is B or better.
B or better. Yeah. I think like a 3.2 or 3.3 or something like that. And there's this guy called Ivan Davidson who runs the beginning acting class. And I did one on a lark, just to kind of, have something different to study. And he calls me into his office at the end of the semester and he's like, I say this to one kid every 5 years, right? You're meant to do this.
No.
Yeah. And he's like, now shut the fuck up and take every course I tell you to take.
Really? And what was your major up until then?
Economics.
Okay.
And
of course, you're Indian.
Yeah. Right, there you go.
I guess Indians could be medicine,
Medicine
right?
and engineering.
Yeah.
But they didn't have an engineering or a medicine program.
Okay.
So it was economics. And then this man just worked me to the bone for like 3 years.
No shit. What was his methodology? Did you say Stanislavski?
Stanislavski, but then intermediate acting and then advanced acting. And I was his TA on every class he ever did.
Really?
He put me in every production.
Wow.
So I ended up getting a theater major as well.
Did you act before college?
Little bit. Like I've been... Since I was 5, if you put me on a stage, I'm okay.
Yeah.
Like, I'll figure out something. I've been at home on a stage. And then I didn't tell my dad. So like after 3 years, I called my dad in my last year of college and I'm like, hey, I've been studying drama. And he's like, okay, good. Fuck you. You're getting your economics degree too.
Yeah.
So I ended up having to complete the econ degree.
Right.
So he just kind of changed my life, man. And then he had worked me so hard in like 3 years. I'd done like Chekhov and Simon and Shakespeare and I was just fried.
Yeah.
And actors do like a thesis performance at the end of the degree. And there was this movie called White Men Can't Jump. I don't know. Right? So I wrote a show called Brown Men Can't Hump. Right?
Nice.
Which was like a 75-minute stand-up routine. But zero jokes, purely friends and, and telling inside stories and all of that stuff. And so I did that. So
wow.
Like the first time I went on stage was 800 people, 75 minutes.
Whoa!
Couldn't have gone better.
And you just rehearsed it alone? And
rehearsed it alone.
First time you really did it in front of people was 800 people.
Right. And then thought I was the shit. Right?
Yeah, because, of course you did.
You couldn't do yourself a bigger disservice than debuting that way. And then open mics in Chicago.
And now welcome to 6 drunks at 1 a.m. eating chicken wings.
Yeah, got my ass handed to me nicely.
And where was that?
In Chicago. I was washing dishes.
You moved to Chicago?
Yeah. After I graduated in that year, I was washing dishes in Chicago. And
where'd you live in Chicago?
Way up north, like 4400 North, which is where Wrigley Field turns into like the Hispanic neighborhood.
No, well, yeah, my son's going to school in DePaul right now.
There you go.
So he's up in Lincoln Park area.
So did that, and then went back to India, and there was no scene as such. There was no clubs, and there was no scene.
Yeah.
Right? So I ended up having to like book a theater and write 90 new minutes. Right. So
in Mumbai, a city that big, there was no stand-up comedy
It was
clubs?
in Hindi, but there was no clubs, and it was very old. It was very theatrical. So like 45 and above. But there wasn't a kid saying the F word or talking about, I was 23.
Okay.
So the first 3 shows that I wrote were 90 minutes for like 400 or 500 people. So you don't know dynamics. You haven't worked any material out. You're just kind of going on stage going blah, 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 and hoping some shit sticks.
Yeah.
So I didn't really learn how to work out material until like 7 years ago or 8 years ago.
Which was where?
The US, really.
In the US.
Like I was doing stand-up in India and I was just writing these shows. And then I think I came down to LA to like take meetings, which means give
so wait,
money
now
to Uber.
you did these shows, so you got traction.
I got traction and then Bollywood happened pretty quick.
Okay.
So I got traction from stand-up.
Yeah.
And then somebody called me over to a channel and they're like, we're going to make you a VJ. Remember
VJ?
Yeah.
Oh, I love it. Tell me about the wardrobe they gave you for the VJ.
It was
shiny?
No, it was no sleeves, right? And I had like no arms whatsoever. So the creative director was like, we need to add tattoos to his arms to cover up how saggy his fucking arms
No
are, right?
shit.
So now they're, henna tattoos,
Yeah.
right, that go away in like 8 weeks or whatever. So I'm just covered in henna tattoos.
That's amazing.
And I have like gelled hair with the spikes going up. And I'm just like, this next song. Right.
Oh, dude, your kids are going to love that someday.
And my soul is dying.
Yes.
Right? And I was fired in like 4 months because I was terrible. I just sounded sarcastic about everything that I was doing.
Yeah.
And then I got a really cool job, actually. I was a big fan of The Daily Show. I'm watching Jon Stewart.
Yeah.
And so on my friend's kitchen table, I shot with a handy cam, a pilot called The Indian Express. And I took it to a news channel, and CNBC picked me up at like age 25.
In the U.S.?
No, there's a CNBC India.
Oh, okay.
So on the primetime news bulletin, which is 9 p.m. to 10 p.m., at the very end of the bulletin, I got to do 5 minutes of jokes every night.
No shit.
At age 25.
5 new minutes every night?
Right. So Monday through Thursday, I got to do that. Right.
Damn.
So
and it was all news related.
all news related, right?
Yeah.
And slightly finance news driven, but
Okay.
but suddenly
Using that economics
Right, there
degree,
you go.
Dad's happy.
But your kid in a newsroom getting to joke about the prime minister on prime time, it's a hell of a thing.
How often did you get in trouble?
Not at all.
Oh, you towed the line.
Different government.
Oh, okay.
But and also I think I was so young and it showed.
Yeah.
Where everybody was like, we need to be patient with this kid. He's just
Okay.
this fool that they're giving this segment to.
Yeah.
Did that for about 4 years.
No shit.
Yeah. And then I decided I wanted to be in Bollywood.
Did
And,
that make you pretty big?
I was getting corporate shows. So,
Yeah.
Because every company watched the prime
Right.
time bulletin. So every weekend I was kind of,
So you were making a nice salary during the week.
25 years old.
And
on
then you're
primetime
making
television.
big corporate money on the weekends.
Yeah. And
And you got your own apartment.
got my own apartment.
Girls?
Girl. Not girls. Never been girls.
Okay.
Girl. But didn't feel right after a while. You're just not, you don't feel pushed
Okay.
in any way.
I would have, I guess, but Jesus, coming up with 5 new minutes every night is pretty, that's a great challenge.
It is. I actually went to London and I paid a guy who wrote for the BBC.
Okay.
And I was like, just teach me how to write news comedy.
Yeah.
And so he taught me like mind mapping and like taking a news story and asking 45 questions around it and then answering those. And so he just taught me how to do that.
Interesting.
But then, I'd have to wake up and shoot a stand-up show at 5 a.m. before the news studios open for real news.
Okay.
And then they just tag it on to the tail end of the bulletin. So I just got tired of waking up.
Yeah, that's rough.
At 4 o'clock in the morning, twice a week to come in and bank for the week.
Yeah.
Right? And I ended up seeing this movie. It's called Rang De Basanti. Right? And what you have to understand about Bollywood is Bollywood is gorgeous people. Beautiful,
Oh, I love
talented,
Bollywood.
Right?
I love
so
it. Yeah.
It is the best form of emotional expression and escapism I've ever seen.
When I am super depressed, I'll put on a Bollywood movie and it
There you
just
go.
I just light up.
Right? There you go.
Yeah.
Like, I think for Americans to portray that kind of emotion, they have to like put on superhero costumes.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like,
exactly.
because I say this often, but like that's what the Avengers is. It's your Bollywood.
Yeah.
It's escapism and it's grand and it's a spectacle and it's emotional. But I saw this Bollywood movie and suddenly there was this Bollywood hero. His name is Amir Khan. And like around him were 3 guys who looked like me. And I was like, oh,
Flabby
shit.
arms, henna tattoos.
There you go.
Yeah.
And I was like, I can do this.
Yeah.
So then I'm like, there's a space for me at least.
Yeah.
So I kind of put time into that.
So you got an agent. You said, submit me for some Bollywood movies.
No, fuck no. I had an agent, but what I ended up doing was I took a stand-up show and it was called Viragra. Of course it was, because puns are
Viragra. There you go.
the highest form of humor.
Mm-hmm.
And I ended up shooting a special.
Yeah.
So I ended up like with a 5-cam setup, spending my life savings, and I designed a DVD and I paid a bunch of money to design a DVD that just looked like it belonged in a DVD library.
Mm-hmm.
So if you put it next to like Magnolia or something, it just looked like it belonged there. And I went to every DVD library where I knew filmmakers rented DVDs from. And I just gave them 10 free copies. I'm like, you just make money off of this. It's fine. That ended up with some casting directors and some assistant directors and got me auditions.
Call.
So
yeah.
I just kind of skipped the audition because you go to a Bollywood audition line and see if you feel good about yourself because it's just beautiful boys and girls who are 6'2" and amazing actors.
Yeah.
So I just knew I wouldn't hack it in that. And there was no Adam Sandler genre in India back then. There's no alternate path.
Yeah.
So that happened, and then I just kind of neglected stand-up.
So you started doing Bollywood movies.
Started doing Bollywood.
So
movies.
how did your experience training as an actor mesh up with the style of acting that you do in Bollywood? Because it's much bigger.
It's bigger.
Did it feel like not the kind of acting you wanted to do?
Yeah, it was, I mean, at least back then. Now I think Bollywood makes the best movies that there are. But back then, like I remember fucking standing on because there's 5 songs in a movie, right?
Yeah.
And so there's the sad song, and then there's the happy song, and then there's the they have just fallen in love song. And the they have just fallen in love song is where you get to travel, right? And you get to go to like locations.
Yeah.
I'm in a chiffon shirt, all right? Like yellow chiffon, right? And it's open. I haven't had carbs in 2 weeks. I haven't had salt in 3 days.
Yeah.
I haven't had water in 1 day. So I've been drinking cold green tea, right? So I'm just fucking emaciated, right?
Yeah.
And just, standing on this thing, but I have some version of abs in this thing.
Right.
And there's 5 assistant directors with blowers just pointing shit at my shirt that is going like that, right? I'm wearing white linen pants that are also kind of shimmering
I'm
in the
getting
fucking
hard right now.
And there's a girl who's running towards me.
Yeah.
Right? And they're shooting her in slow motion. But while it looks like slow motion, it means this lady has to sprint her fucking ass off.
Right.
And I have to catch her. And just remember thinking, this is not drama school at all. And also, like, I'm too weak to catch this chick. Like, she's going to knock me over.
Yeah, yeah.
And so at that point, I was like, I don't, like, I felt like a golden retriever trying to be an Alsatian.
Why you would not buy that clip from the movie and put it at the beginning of your next 1 hour special? I want to see that.
Dude, I'm in enough trouble.
So you do Bollywood, and you were doing, and then you got sick of that.
I know. I had a movie that crashed and burnt, and it was the biggest studio film that I'd ever done.
And you were one of the big stars
I was
in
the
it?
lead.
Yeah.
Right. And,
wow.
And so it was movie number 7 that I had done with a big studio, just because they're like, this director, this actor, this package, let's go.
Right.
Didn't read the script. And it was like this American Pie style sex comedy thing.
Yeah.
It was terrible. Like, and I would never have watched it.
Did you have any say in writing it? Were they wouldn't let you punch anything up?
And it crashed and burned, and the phone stopped ringing.
Really?
And then somebody.
Had you been making big money from those movies?
Yeah.
So you were okay financially, but career-wise, you were in a dead end.
Yeah, and these guys came down, and they were like, they'd seen a YouTube clip, and they're like, we're from CAA. And I'm like, okay, what's a CAA? I didn't know.
Yeah.
And they're like, come to LA and take meetings.
This is how long ago?
This is 2015.
Okay.
Right? And so I came down, and they're like, do you want to do some spots while you're here? I ended up going up at the Laugh Factory. And this gentleman called like Jamie Masada.
Jamie Masada, right? The owner, great guy.
Great guy. So he's like, Badi, you're going to be big or whatever, etc., etc. And I think he put me, like, I did a 5-minute spot. It went all right. And then he's like, come back tomorrow. And he put me between like Whitney Cummings and Dane Cook. Which I guess is a test of some sort.
Sure, that's what he was doing.
And I remember Whitney came on and just sucked all the energy out of the room. She was amazing, right? And I went up and I followed, and I did okay.
Yeah.
And I just had this defining moment where I'm like, I felt more fulfilled by this than I have by anything I've done in the last sort of 5 years.
And had you been doing much stand-up leading up to that?
I was doing like corporate shows on the weekend.
So you were soft.
And I was doing this show called History of India, which is about the history of India.
Yeah.
But it was much more of a theatre piece. So I'm just like, I kind of fell in love with it overnight.
Wow.
And then I'm like, okay, where are the good people? They're in America, they're in the UK, they're here in India, and I need to start kind of playing tennis with these people.
Right.
So that's when I kind of started working here a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so tell me about, let's go back to your parents who didn't have the money
I'm
to
gonna
send
have a
you to
lozenge, by the way.
college.
Is that okay?
Yeah, please.
Can I
Yeah.
offer you one?
I'm good.
These are called vocal zones, which are just kind of good vocal lozenges. Like they help me on tour.
You know what's funny is I was going to say you have a great voice on stage, and I almost got the sense you must have trained as an actor at a certain point, because you've got a very grounded voice, which is huge. People have no idea in comedy how important a grounded voice is in communicating comedy.
Interesting.
I've seen so many good comics that they're up in here and they're strained, and the audience doesn't connect, and you don't get the emotional inflections. And
I don't think it's even something you can. I think it has to come backwards from, like, you can't generate it. It has to come from like thought and comfort.
Right. It's comfort.
It's comfort.
Yeah.
But I don't think you can manufacture that.
No, my brother tries to manufacture it, and he sounds like he's trying to sound like a man, because I think he had a thin voice when he was a teenager. So your parents struggled, and now you're suddenly doing Bollywood movies. You're making big money. Did you take care of them?
They have yet to take a penny from me.
What?
My parents are very proud people. And
really?
Yeah, so my father is a consultant and a businessman, and my mom went from working for the World Wildlife Fund to now working at the UN.
Oh, okay.
So, I mean, these are two people where the day they stop working, they're not going to hang out for much after.
Right.
Like, work defines them.
So they weren't like looking for you to like buy them a house or anything.
No, they have a comfortable. I mean, we have a very interesting story where we grew up in Africa. Like, I grew up in Africa.
Where?
Lagos, Nigeria.
Okay.
And so my father went from doing ridiculously well in Africa.
Yeah.
To losing everything and exiting with a bunch of Indians who were told to exit at that point. Like, at some point, everybody got out of Lagos, Nigeria. So we shoved everything that we had into a 20-foot container, shipping container, within a week and left.
No shit.
And so did most of the Indian population.
And without any money?
Without just what you could grab, and we all left.
Wow.
So we came back to India and kind of restarted life when I was 15. So I remember living in a very fancy house that they lived in while they were in Nigeria.
Yeah.
Which they built in India while they were in Nigeria because they had the money. And then coming back and having...
Was it like a colonial type of thing? Colonialism? The Indians in Nigeria?
I mean, they're very well sort of regarded in society, but I think they had a government change and a political coup, and they were just like, everybody get the fuck out.
Okay.
So many people fled. Many communities fled.
Right.
And, we had a factory there that never really got off the ground. You just left everything and you ran.
Yeah, okay.
And then we're just in this house in Delhi, which is a very fancy house, but with not enough furniture to fill the rooms.
Mm-hmm.
So you're just kind of closing off rooms and saying, we have enough furniture for 2 rooms.
Yeah.
We'll fill that. So in that sense, they've rebuilt themselves when they came back to India. They've always been able to pay the rent and take care of us and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
So they're maybe they couldn't afford college in America.
Right.
But that's a real leap.
Yeah.
There are many people who are doing very well who cannot afford college in America. It's very expensive.
Yeah. And, before we get back to your life story, I need you to comment on a news story I saw this past week where twice a man urinated on a woman on Air India flying to Delhi.
Oh, man.
What the fuck is going on Air India? Did you read about this?
I saw the headline. I was like, is it an altitude thing? Like, is he drunk?
He was definitely drunk. And the woman was in business class. That's the thing that's so wrong.
No,
it's like, piss on someone and coach.
I would say if you're going to piss on people, get as close to the front of the plane as you possibly can. I don't think business class makes it less pissable.
I just think of the Indian caste system, and it's like, respect business class.
No. If you're going to piss on anyone, piss on first class. That's what I would say. Like,
right.
No, it's a big deal. He's gone into judicial custody for 2 weeks, and I think the airline is like taking care of it. But like, have you flown Air India?
No.
It's my favorite airline in the world.
No shit.
It is amazing.
Really? The stewardesses you mentioned in your special are old.
They take care of you.
Yeah,
it's like having 5 mothers on a plane. It's amazing. Yeah. They will make sure you're fed. And it's like coming home before you land home.
Okay.
So you get on the flight in like Newark, and it's 16 hours ahead of time, you're already home. So I do like Air India in that sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, he pissed on a lady. Was he just pissing, or was it like that? That's what I wanted to know. Was there like a projectile movement?
There was far too little detail in the story. I was fascinated. I went down a rabbit hole. I just kept looking up, but nobody had any information except he did it, and it happened recently on another Air India flight. And I didn't know if this was some cultural thing of like demeaning women, or if it was just a drunk who would have pissed on anybody.
I think it's like a New York subway now in the sky kind of a thing. But
right.
I mean, the real question is, do you warn before pissing, or do you not warn before pissing? Like,
no,
what would you rather have?
The fun part is piss is the same temperature as your body.
Yeah.
So you don't notice it right away. If he was pissing on her arm, she probably just felt a little warmth and thought maybe she was having a hot flash. And then it was only when it dripped down onto her hand that she stopped and went, oh, I'm being urinated on.
I would rather have somebody say, I'm going to piss on you, and then me be like, no, you're not.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then have them do it,
right.
rather than just randomly have it show up.
My friend pissed on me when we were teenagers. We were at we had a fort in the woods.
Okay.
And we used to go there. We had porno magazines stuck there, and
Sure.
we'd get a bottle of whiskey, and we'd go into the woods, and we'd get shit-faced. And my friend, I don't know why, I was just standing there, and all of a sudden I had piss running down my leg, and he was just standing there next to me, pissing down my leg. And it was I grew up in New York. It was fucking cold out. And I was like, why the fuck did you do that? And I didn't even try to fight him. I was so drunk and confused. But you ever been pissed on?
No, but I have friends who we discovered like jerking off together.
Oh.
You know, I think every man at some point has jerked off in the presence of another man.
Nope.
No?
Nope.
Never happened to you?
Never happened to me.
Well, then, okay, so I just don't know how to, like, I have these friends still in my life.
Yeah.
Where both of us were like, let's discover what jacking off is, right?
Was this before was it never explained to you? So it was just like a weird thing? Like, hey, look at this thing. When I touch my dick, it gets hard and feels
No, it
good.
was like a myth. Like it came down from the heavens. Like,
Okay.
hey man, I've heard.
Oh.
Like, if you touch your dick and like keep going,
Yeah.
some shit will come out.
Yeah,
and I'm like, no, there's no way.
Yeah.
And you're like 8 or 9 years old, right? And this is like
Yeah.
a sleepover.
Oh, this is pre-puberty.
Yeah, but this friend is still in my life.
Wow.
And this will be the first time I've spoken
That's
about
amazing.
it. So yeah.
No, I think that probably happens a lot. It didn't happen to me, but I can see that happening a lot. I was just talking to Ari Shafir. He was on the podcast last week about the first time I came while masturbating, because I grew up Catholic.
Okay.
So I know in India, it's also sexuality is not talked about much.
Not so
right?
much. No.
Yeah. So that's how I grew up.
Okay.
And I just knew when I was probably 13 years old or whatever, I knew that when I scratched my penis, it felt really good. And so it got to the point where it became a daily thing. And it's one afternoon and I'm scratching it and I'm rubbing it, and it came, and I almost called 911. I thought something had gone horribly wrong. I thought my dick broke. And
which would have been a great phone call, by the way.
Yeah.
where like 911 gives you more parenting than your own parents.
Right. Or you get some sicko on the other end who's like, tell me again what happened.
Do it again. I remember jacking off for like, I think almost a year, because I started early, right? I was like 8 or 9 when I started out. Nothing was coming out.
You're right.
Which just was hugely convenient. So you can be in class and you can be like in the field, and then when
the field,
you know, like people playing hockey and shit, and you're just like fucking going at it.
Yeah.
And then when shit started to come out, I'm like, this kind of spoils it.
Yeah.
Now I have to plan.
Yeah.
You know?
Now there's a big mess.
Yeah.
Yeah. There was, there were times where I really, I used to be in a school bus.
Okay.
And coming home, I was the last stop, and I was in the back row of a long school bus, and I used to jack off in the school bus, and it had and the seat, but I don't know how the school buses are in India, but they're very high backed.
Oh yeah, no, I've seen that. Yeah.
So you can't see anything.
Okay.
And there was a hole in the vinyl that was the thing, and I would bring napkins from lunch, and I put it in my pocket, and then I would jerk off, and I would stick it into the hole in the seat. And it would just drop down into the frame of the seat.
You are some lady's trauma right now. Like there's someone talking to a therapist about you right now.
Yes.
Man.
So, all right. So anyway, let's get back to your life.
Yes.
Because I'm fascinated. Jesus Christ. This is more life that you've lived in your short years than most people have in a long lifetime. I mean, Jesus Christ. So now you come to LA.
I decided I want to do this.
You sign with CAA.
I signed with CAA, and then I'm just like, for the first year, send me anywhere.
Right.
Just so I can figure out what this thing is. So then I'm going to like Arlington, Texas, and like Huntsville, Alabama, and
doing stand-up.
Doing stand-up, and people are I'm at the Days Inn.
Yeah.
And people from India are calling, and they're like, you're in fucking Bollywood. What is a Days Inn? And where is Arlington?
Oh, wow.
And I couldn't have loved it more.
Wow.
I just felt very alive.
How did your comedy change in working in the States versus what you were doing over there?
I think it began. Like, I don't think it changed so much. I think it was kind of born a little bit, because I'm not there yet, but I think the comfort with feeling like an outsider and owning that as a perspective, I think that's the journey I'm at least on, and it began there.
Right.
Like feeling like you don't fit in, I think is the genesis of like most comedy at the end of the day. But culturally feeling like you don't fit in anywhere in the world because you've just you're a mutt. You've grown up everywhere for little periods of time. It took me a while to figure out that, okay, that's my perspective now.
Right.
And that lets me talk about anything in the world.
And has that made your crowds mixed? Like I know Russell Peters draws a very Indian crowd on the road.
I mean, Russell is like the OG, right? He's the alpha and the omega. So that's the first guy I saw do I'm like, fuck, brown people can be funny?
Yeah.
And at this level, that's Russell Peters. So that's the guy who opened the door for all of us, right? But Russell's huge. For me, look, the nice thing about being Indian is you can tour anywhere in the world. Right?
There's always Indian people.
There's always Indian people anywhere.
And they seem to come out.
Of course they come out. Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Because you're feeding their homesickness as well.
Right.
Like for a lot of them, they haven't been home in like 3 years. They're working their ass off.
Yeah.
So it's like, they haven't been in a room with this many Indians.
You strike a great balance between feeding them that nostalgia while also making it accessible to white crowds.
Because why not, man? Like,
but that's a tough line to stay on.
Yeah, but like, Greg, I don't know about Ohio. I've never been to Ohio, but I'll let a Chappelle take me to Ohio any day. Mm-hmm. I'm not particularly emotionally invested in his farmer neighbor who he's fighting with or whatever.
Right.
But I'll go. So why can't I take you to Mumbai?
Yeah.
Or why can't I take you to Delhi?
Right.
And tell you some shit from there. And ironically, I think like American crowds and global crowds respond a little bit better to that, because you've heard the 5 things about India. You've heard my conservative Indian father, but don't talk to girls. You've heard that punchline.
Yeah.
You've heard Apu from The Simpsons. You know Gandhi. You know these 5 things.
Yeah.
Let me take you someplace new.
Right. Like that there's gold hidden.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Talk about that. That was interesting to me.
I read an article that said if Indian women declared their undeclared gold, right, our GDP would triple by 3 times. Like by 3 times. Every Indian woman has gold.
Yeah.
That has come from generation to generation to generation to generation, and nobody talks about.
And that's the safety hatch. That's the escape hatch.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. Like
damn.
My grandmom, when she passed on, we found a bunch of fucking gold.
No shit.
Nobody knew about.
Really?
Like my granddad didn't know.
Oh my God.
Nobody knew. And then it's not in the will. Uh-huh. It's nowhere, right?
Yeah.
So it's just come out of nowhere. So you're like, you don't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
So now the entire family is like, like, who did she like more? Who would appreciate this gold more?
Yeah, because you can't split up the gold between 12 grandkids.
No,
One
can't.
kid gets the gold.
Unless you melt it down
Right.
and make it something else. So, I mean, her daughter got it, of course, which is legacy and stuff. But it's a bunch of gold.
The other thing that you talk about that I was somewhat aware of, but I mean, I think one of the big themes of your special is about how India is an old country, or it's a young country being run by old people.
Yeah, definitely. We have the largest working population under 30 on the planet. And as opposed to a China or other large populations, this population is free and they're skilled and they're technologically savvy and they're allowed to interact with the rest of the world. So I think we're about to become this sort of gigantic manufacturing hub We're not a cultural hub quite yet, but in terms of industry, everybody's looking our way.
And including tech support and...
Everything.
Yeah.
Everything.
Right.
Yeah, I think a lot of things that you were seeing being made in China over the last 20 years, you will now see being made in India and manufactured out of India.
And how's the education system there?
It's tough. You know, it's very memorization based. So it's a very hard system.
Right.
You know, so it does prep you very well. Like I think America has the best collegiate system on the planet. But your high school system, I feel like, needs a little work.
Yes, it does.
You know?
Yeah.
Like I remember getting into freshman year with a lot of American kids who had studied math at a level in like their last year that I studied in like grade 8 or grade 9.
Yeah.
So we push our kids a lot harder in high school at least, or in school.
Right.
It's very hard.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. I know if our education system, it's appalling. Considering the resources we have in this country, how little of it we put towards public education. Because I mean, you give kids go to European colleges and they get blown out of the water. They can't handle it a lot of times.
But there's freedom to it as well. Like I had to give an exam in grade 10 called the board exams, and depending on how I did on those exams, I was told what I could study.
Oh, okay.
So if I got like 90 and above, I got to study science and math. And if I got like maybe 60 to 80, I got to study humanities. Now, keep in mind, if I got 95 and I still wanted to study humanities or history, I could. Yeah. But I couldn't study science.
Okay.
You know, so.
And what if you score really low? It's like engine repair and humanities.
Right.
Yeah.
That's your.
Yeah.
But like I didn't do well, but I ended up having like extracurricular percentages added. So I studied science. I still don't know why, but I studied like physics, chemistry, and mathematics on a path for engineering. And I sat for 5 engineering entrance exams and like wrote a letter to the examiner because I'm just like, you have to sit there for a compulsory 45 minutes. So I just sat there and I'm like, I don't really want to be an engineer. I just have to be here for 45 minutes. Yeah. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Jesus.
You know? But it's tough.
Yeah. Yeah. So now you're playing. How much of your stand-up is in the States versus around the world at this point?
At this point, I'm doing maybe 4 months a year in the States.
Okay.
4.5 months a year in the States.
Based out of LA?
I was doing LA, but then I found New York.
Yeah.
I fell in love, man.
It's like, there's no comparison to the stand-up scene.
Yeah, I auditioned at the Cellar and got past there, and then that just kind of becomes home club.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I love it. I love that scene as well.
Yeah.
LA is it's intimidating to me in terms of life. How much life you let happen will dictate what your material is. And in LA, you need a car to get a toothbrush. It just feels, you know, I don't know if I'll experience that much life here.
No, when because I'm a New York comic originally, and you know, I just feel like when I go back there, I write twice as much as I write when I'm out here. I feel more alive. There's something, and I'm not knocking LA comedy. I mean, the Comedy Store is great and the Improv's great, but, and the Laugh Factory, but something about New York crowds, there's such a dynamic of, they're diverse, not just racially, but economically. And it's just, they're packed in and they feel like they're there for the comedy. Sometimes in LA, I feel like they're there to see Sebastian or they're there to see Whitney or whatever. And so that's good. Where do you live in the city?
I'll do Soho. Like there's an Airbnb in Soho.
Oh, you just Airbnb when you spend time there.
And so I can walk to the Cellar.
Okay.
But I get what you're saying. Like I've done LA, I've done the Store, I've done the Improv and all of that stuff. And I find that most people do the spot and leave.
And they leave.
You know?
Yeah.
And in New York, they're just kind of hanging out.
Yeah.
And like, I'm coming here to learn. You know, I just want to get good.
Right.
And
who do you like in New York? Which comics?
I like Sam. Sam Morril is doing some really good stuff. Like that's proper clinical craft that I really like. I saw this lady, forgive me, I don't know names too well because I'm just in and out, but Jessica Kirsten.
Yeah.
She's a beast.
She's great.
She's amazing.
She's a killer.
Just pure passion and like, I think if the hallmark of an artist is whether they make you laugh or not, you know them in 3 seconds.
Yep.
She's got that down.
Yeah.
Really well. And The Cellar is just like 20-year assassins who you may not know their names, but they're tough to follow on any given night.
Yeah, everybody's tough to follow.
You know.
What about Attell? You see Attell much?
I've seen Attell. Yeah. I've had to follow a couple of the big boys who popped in, and that was also nice and intimidating. It's just good to learn.
And it's like you said about following Whitney, though. A lot of times, it's kind of a nice spot following a big star because the energy in the room just lights up, and if you can handle it right,
focused.
Yeah, right.
You know,
you give them a minute, you go up and you give them a minute to fucking settle. And then you just give them your shit, and a lot of times they're just like a different crowd than they were before that star came up.
Yeah, and also if you're full disclosure with how terrified you are, it's going to be okay.
Right.
I remember I think I had to follow Chris Rock, who popped in because they hadn't dropped the check yet during his set, because of course they're not going to.
Yeah.
Right? And so I think Liz was like, go up and do 5 minutes and close the show while we drop the check.
Oh, right? After Chris Rock.
After Chris Rock. So I'm like, so then you just kind of go up and you're like, hey guys, it's 1 a.m. and I'm following Chris Rock and you're going to get your check and this is an Indian accent. Let's go. Right? And instantly the crowd loves you.
Yeah.
Because they know.
Right.
But I won't get that education anywhere else.
Yeah. And where did you tape your special in New York?
NYU.
Oh, okay.
I had two choices. I had the Skirball or the Apollo.
Yeah.
And the Apollo felt very large. It felt like you'd crack a joke and wait a minute for the laugh to end. So I wanted pace on the special.
Yeah. I think, what's her name did her special there? Amy Schumer did her special there.
Yeah.
And I didn't love the look of it. I want to welcome monsoon season, by the way, in Los Angeles. Great timing.
So I know I wrote that joke where I'm like, America doesn't have a monsoon. This is a purposeless mist, etc. But then, like yesterday morning, I was looking at the rain and I'm like, I think I'm fucking wrong.
Yeah,
this is real rain.
We never get this.
So what's happened? Is this climate change?
I mean, the last time I saw it like this, there was what they call what was it called? It's a Spanish word, but it's a low front meets but El Nino. It was called.
Okay, yeah.
I think it might be an El Nino, but the problem with LA is like we are in a drought, and all this rain falls, and our sewers don't collect it. It feeds it out into the ocean. Nobody knows why. I mean, if you watch the movie, if you ever saw Chinatown, I think they somehow get into it a little bit. But we've got farmers that can't farm because there's not enough water, and then all the water just drains away.
Yeah, I was driving to I think San Diego or something like that, and there's just who's your mayor in LA?
Oh Jesus Christ!
What's his name? Gavin something or
Gavin Newsom?
Yeah. So
is he the governor?
Oh, he might be
the governor.
Right? But there's sign after sign after sign on farms as you drive out of LA just going, fuck that guy.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, what did he do? I don't know.
Yeah, they don't I think they tried to recall him in the last election and they failed, but it got pretty close. They spent a lot of money trying to recall him.
The American election is perhaps one of the most entertaining things I've ever seen. Just the presidential election in America. It truly is like I saw that documentary about Obama's, how he went from like a 7-minute speech to.
Oh, how was that?
It was so good.
Yeah.
Like if you believe in the power of public speaking, which I think most comedians do at some level, even when we're indulging ourselves, we recognize its power. He gave like a 7-minute speech at the Democratic National Convention.
Yeah.
And he was supposed to lead up to John Kerry because they wanted a diverse bill. And I think he gave this speech and the next day everybody's like,
oh, I remember that.
That's the guy.
Oh, yeah. It became instant.
Instant.
And at the time, his greatest asset was that he didn't have a big track record.
Yeah.
That he didn't have a voting record that they could look at going back to the 1980s and say, well, you said this and you said this. He was fresh, new ideas, hope. His whole campaign was hope.
Yeah.
And people needed that right then.
He's, I would say, top 5 orators of all time.
Yes.
Like,
did you see him do the correspondence dinners?
Yeah, hell yeah.
I mean, he can do comedy better than comedians.
But listen, so can Donald Trump. Donald Trump has legit chops. He has timing.
Absolutely.
But I'd say like Obama, Hitler was a great public speaker.
Sure.
My Prime Minister, Narendra Modi, great public speaker. Martin Luther King, and I don't know who else is.
Winston Churchill?
Yeah, why not? Why not? Although, isn't there like mythology that he didn't do his own speeches? Like it was a guy from the BBC.
Really?
Yeah.
Who wrote them for him?
Who performed?
Oh, no shit.
Yeah, 'cause you never saw Winston Churchill speak live, right? It was always from a bunker with the BBC mics. So there's mythology there.
Interesting. And there was also, FDR did his fireside chats. That was a big thing during the war.
Yeah.
Yeah, he calmed America down. He sat by the fire, crossed his legs, had a little brandy, talked to America.
If the world is going to war again, my friend, who's making these chats and calming everybody down?
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah, so now we got another election coming up, and now the big thing is whether or not Trump will run. And, he's been... it's incredible that it's even considered that he could be a viable candidate. After everything he's been through, after how much has been thrown at him, how many times he's been indicted and prosecuted, and...
This man is fucking
still
invincible.
He's still standing. Yeah. It's incredible.
He's like that. Who was that Mercury Terminator? Remember the guy who kept falling apart into little puddles of mercury and then just kept coming back up together? And he was like, why won't this guy fucking die? I think that's Donald Trump.
It's just pure will. It's just never admitting that it's not going well, And it's counterpunching. Counterpunch. Every time they throw something at you, you come back at them twice hard. He's done it with lawyers as a real estate developer, and he's done it with, threats as a politician.
You need someone who's funny and who can debate.
Yes.
Like I saw him thrash everyone in those debates. Whether you...
Dude, Al Franken could go toe-to-toe with him any day. Do you know Al Franken?
Yeah, I do, yeah.
I mean, that guy, I could go on for an hour about how
Isn't he a comic as well?
He started out as a comedian, and he was a writer on SNL. And then he had a radio show called Air America for years where he did a kind of liberal, funny political talk. And then he became a senator from Minnesota, and he was like one of the leading, he was on a lot of committees. He was very, very powerful.
Okay.
And then there was a picture of him putting his hands in front of a woman's tits who had a Kevlar vest on while they were flying on some, it was like some tour of military bases.
Also not like a college pick, but like a now pick.
It was like when he was maybe a senator. I don't know. It was a bad idea, but it wasn't like he never made contact. It was a joke.
Boy.
And he fucking stepped down because this fucking bitch from New York, I forget her name. She was a senator from New York. Gillibrand came after him, and we lost the most effective weapon in the Democratic Party when Franken stepped down. And he needs to come back. And he needs to run, and he needs to debate. He can debate anybody.
Yeah, maybe that's your guy.
Yeah.
Who's the skateboarding guy?
Tony Hawk?
No, yeah, but no, I saw like he's a tall white guy and he's kind of like white Obama. Paul Beto?
Oh,
Dano? No.
Beto. Beto O'Rourke.
There you go.
Yeah, he's the guy from Texas.
So he felt like cool and kind of like he can talk.
Yeah, you know what happened is he lost an election. I think he ran for Senate against the Republican, and he lost, and it kind of killed him. Because it was a very high profile election, and he got a lot of funding for it, and he lost. He's great. I love Beto O'Rourke, but. Yeah, I mean, there's nobody that the Democrats are rallying behind right now. There's no consensus on who can run. I mean, right now it looks like the Republicans probably have DeSantis from Florida, but this early on, it's almost bad to be a front runner when you're this far away from the election because so much can go wrong. You want to pop like a year before, not 2 years before.
I can't imagine what that loss is like.
Yeah.
I imagine it feels like divorce.
Yeah.
Because this is like a 3-year decision or like a 4-year decision.
Right.
Like most things you decide will fail within 6 months or a year.
Right.
But like to commit for 3 years and then maybe a year in not see it going well and still have to stick with it while it slips away, man,
and
that must be...
And stick to your talking points and keep saying the same shit because it's all about being on message. And it doesn't matter if you're standing in front of a crowd of 20,000 or you're at a pancake house in Louisville, Kentucky.
It's the same
You still
thing.
got to hit those same talking points, answer the same questions. For what? To be hoisted up to a position where half the country wants to rip you down, and that's how you're going to spend the next 4 years?
I don't even know how. At least here's what India is going through. And I think America parallels it in a certain sense, where this new generation, 18 to 25, is a voting generation. They come out, they vote, and they smell bullshit a mile away. Like, they don't fuck around, right? Like, if something is remotely put on or fake or cringe, but they're very ruthless, this generation.
Yeah.
So I don't know how a politician appeals to this generation.
Yeah.
With all these rules that are, the tie must be a certain color, never wear a gray suit,
Put your American flag pin on.
And have these 5 talking points and always pivot to what you need. Like, I think 90% of this generation sees through that.
Yeah.
So it's going to be an interesting election.
Well, that's why Bernie Madoff did so. I always say Bernie Madoff. Bernie Sanders did so well because
he was just authentic.
He was very authentic, and he had been saying the same thing for 50 fucking years. That guy has ideals that he believes in, and he is truly a champion for the working class. He is all about how do we make things fair and equitable for the people that don't have a lot? How do we get them health coverage? And
was he just not statesmanly enough to pull it off then, do you think?
The Democratic Party never got behind him. I mean, it was leaked out that they leaked some documents from inside the Democratic Party when Hillary was running, and they just decided that they were going to back her, which that's not their job. They're not supposed to back a candidate. And so he just never had the funding because he was going after the big banks. He was going after all the people that funnel big money behind campaigns. He was attacking. So he didn't really have the war chest. And what's funny is the biggest knock against him was he was old, and we're looking at Trump and Biden, who are older than he was.
Yeah, but I do think politics these days is like very connected to masculinity.
Yeah.
In terms of, like, globally, we've gone back to strongman worshipping in various parts of the world, America included, I think. So I think the knocks against Biden that he's feeble or that he's older come from, we need strong masculine men to vote for. This is where Putin worship comes from as well.
Right.
So, I don't know, you're going to need like an alpha or something like that.
Well, who's the Prime Minister of India right now?
Narendra Modi, very alpha. Very strong man.
Yeah.
So a lot of young boys, there's passion around that man.
Yeah. And young people like him?
Young boys definitely like him.
Yeah.
He's going to win for sure. Like, he'll win the next 3 elections.
Yeah.
No sweat. He's a magnificent orator. He's a strong, charismatic man. So
how do you feel about him?
I'm a fan of who he is as a leader, but I don't see the trickle down happen.
Yeah.
Like, I know he's a passionate worker. I know he's a great orator. I know he can lead. So in that sense, I like it. But I just don't know if anybody under him is at his level. And
really?
Unfortunately, it's not a presidential system. It's a parliamentary system. So it really is about sections underneath leadership that make it effective leadership. So I'd love it if they followed suit.
Right.
In that sense.
So it's very disjointed right now. You got a lot of groups that want different things.
Yeah, but also, I mean, what I do always tell people is we do have the largest democracy in the world. Like, the fact that a 1.4 billion people democracy ain't easy. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's the largest election in the world. It's the largest democracy in the world. So, and we're very young. Like, we got independence in 1947. That's like yesterday.
Yeah.
The notion that, nobody else is going to decide this. We have to decide this, and now we're holding the baby.
Yeah,
like we're living with that for a very short amount of time.
Right,
so we got a lot to figure out.
And how is global warming affecting India in terms of agriculture and like shifts to the cities? Is that happening?
Yeah, and most articles aren't particularly optimistic about the effect of it. Like, pollution in some of the big cities in India is a big concern. But strangely enough, it's not something we're polarized on.
Yeah.
It's like a topic for discussion and very openly discussed. But there's no like change deniers.
Oh, really?
Yeah. That's
interesting.
Like, I've never heard rhetoric out of India that climate change isn't real or this isn't a problem. we're just like, no, this is a fucking problem.
Isn't it mind-boggling that we still have that in this country? That
Is it still though? I think.
40% of the country doesn't believe in climate change. It's insane.
But when shit is on fire and you can't...
Well, it's just a blip. You know, the weather always changes. The weather goes in cycles. This isn't anything meaningful. And it's like, no, thousands of studies have all, like every scientific study has come back and said that man's activities are creating carbon emissions that are changing the environment. And that there's 60 Minutes did a piece a couple weeks ago about the amount of extinction that's happening right now, and especially talk about the fish in the ocean, which feeds everything. Yeah. It throws off the birds. It throws off everything that eats them.
Your packaging in America, like I put this on my Instagram yesterday. Like I ordered 2 bananas from a cafe.
Yeah.
Right. I stared at them for 25 minutes because each banana came pre-cut in like a plastic thing, and then I needed plastic utensils. I'm like, they have packaging from God.
You're right.
Like,
God, perfect box.
Right?
Yes.
Like, and I think the line was only in America. They're like, no, we'll do it better than God. Right? We can figure this shit out better than God.
I know.
And I'm like, now these bananas won't last. Now I will have to refrigerate the bananas.
But that's hilarious. Yeah, it is like the perfect little box, and it's got a little opener on top for you to peel it back.
But I don't know, like for all of, I come from a section of the world where it's very easy to parody America and very popular to parody America.
Uh-huh.
And I think the pandemic kind of equalized that.
Yeah.
Where you're always going to shit on the best player on the team or the most popular player on the team. Mm-hmm. And then when we saw you struggle during the pandemic at the same level that we struggled, and it just kind of equalized the world.
Interesting.
Where I think now when I travel the world, and I really do, it's sort of like, okay, they went through something, we went through something.
Yeah.
Be sensitive and be cool.
Okay. That's nice to hear.
Yeah. Because I've spent time in like real America. Not like Van Wilder America or like New York. Americans are hardworking fucking people, man. Mm-hmm. They really are. Like, my host mom in Galesburg, her name was Pinky Gibbons, and her husband's name was Gene, and Gene was a trucker. He had served in the military and had like 9 guns, and Pinky was a cafeteria lady.
And you lived in their home when you went to college?
No, but they were just, I'd go there over the weekends and they took care of me. They're what you call host parents.
Really?
For like international kids.
Okay.
Yeah. And I'd sit on Gene's Harley and go out for drives with him and go to the Maytag factory and shit. That's like
amazing.
That. These people are up at 5 a.m.
Yeah, right.
They're hardworking people, man. And that's most of America.
Yeah. And I think you can't take that from people. There's dignity with hard work. And I think with the labor unions have been just taken apart in this country, and it's taken away the satisfaction and the pride of doing a job. I mean, Amazon, every time I turn around, Amazon is in another, I was in Whole Foods yesterday and my wife is like, Amazon owns this. I'm like, what? And now they're setting up healthcare centers, Amazon healthcare, like doctors' offices.
Oh boy!
And meanwhile, no union labor. And every time they try to set up a union somewhere, they get misinformation spread. They have mandatory meetings for employees where they just give them propaganda against unions. And they have had almost no success setting up any union shops at Amazon. And like without that, you're getting these hardworking people that are getting up at 5 a.m. and they're busting their asses. And they're being fired at the drop of a hat, and they're not being given a living wage. And Walmart employees have to go on Medicaid, so they can get health insurance because Walmart doesn't give it to them and they don't pay them enough, and they instruct them. Walmart has seminars where they teach you how to get on Medicaid while you're working for them full time.
Again, with like Amazon, with like Jeff Bezos or whatever, I think that's happening in the business sector as well. There's sort of alpha worship in business and this zero sympathy, for your employees kind of business model, even with Elon Musk. And so I don't get what's happening there fully either. But I feel
the capitalism is very alpha. It's the idea that it's the survival of the fittest.
But it wasn't 5 years ago, remember?
Yeah,
5 years ago, there wasn't this whole sort of rhetoric around alpha capitalism. It was, you're greedy and you do what you need to do, but there wasn't this worship of alpha capitalists.
Yeah.
Like maybe that's a social media thing, perhaps. That social media has just amplified this culture. Mm-hmm. But I
think it's Fox News.
You think so?
I think Fox News has done more disservice to this country than any person or institution ever. I mean, it is
Maybe.
people. It has huge viewership, and it is so angry and vitriolic and so filled with whatever. I don't want to. Half my listeners are Republicans, and they get crazy when I talk like this. But
listen, I've not particularly been treated well by news channels either.
Yeah.
We all have our own Fox News,
right.
You know, in every part of the world.
Yeah.
So no judgment.
All right, before you go, there's a thing I like to do with my comedian guests where I ask you a few questions.
All right, cool.
It's so much more I wanted to talk to you about, but I don't want to abuse your time. Have you ever not finished a set on stage?
Yes. Once because I had dengue fever. So
That's diarrhea.
Yeah. No, dengue fever is fever, but I shat my pants. Legit, on stage.
On stage?
Yeah, so I was just like...
Nice.
But, so I had a...
How many people in the crowd?
1,000. But in India, we do intervals, right?
Yeah.
So it was the first half, and I'd gone out and been like... And this is a public show, so I've sold 1,000 tickets. And I'm like, guys, I have 102 fever. And if I suck today, I will refund your money at the end of the set.
Yeah.
And I can't stand, so I'm going to sit down. So I sat down, and I think like 23 minutes into the 45-minute first half of it, shat my pants. Like just legit, right?
While sitting.
And I had this long sherwani type thing, which kind of covers up the thing.
Thank God you didn't have the white pants from the Bollywood movie.
Yeah, so I'm like, that's our first half, guys. I'll see you in 20 minutes. And everybody's like, okay, this is a short first half.
Yeah.
So then I did a 23-minute first half and then like an hour, 10-minute second half.
Whoa. What happened in between? Did you have an extra set of pants in the back?
Yeah, went and put on an extra set. So I changed costumes. It was about the show was called History of India, right?
Yeah.
So in the first half, I wear kind of like a ancient Indian history costume.
Yeah.
And in the second half, modern. Because, everybody in stand-up loves a costume change.
Yeah.
It really endears the comedian
Sure.
to you. So I just went and crapped my pants and changed up and all of that stuff. And I think had like fucking paracetamol and like glucose and went back up on stage.
Did you mention to the crowd that you'd shit your pants?
No.
You don't do that in India.
This might be the first time I mentioned it. But I think most comics have shat their pants at least once on stage. Like a little bit has come out. Come on.
I peed my pants yesterday.
Nice.
Yeah, I was walking out of this office and I had to take a dump, and I was thinking about whether or not I had time to do it because I had to go meet somebody. And I don't know how, but somehow thinking about it made me release a little bit of urine. And I was like, what the fuck? Am I that age now? Am I peeing my pants now?
You have to do, what do they call, Kegel exercises?
Yeah, I got to do my Kegels. Yes.
Why is it that everything is down here as we get older? Every problem is down here.
Gravity, baby.
Fuck.
Everything's getting pushed down. Your balls are getting pushed down. Your
Yeah.
tits. I got saggy tits now.
And the other thing with the American sort of toilets is the water's too high.
It's too high.
It's like you don't have toilets that are prepared for Indian shits.
Right.
like when I take a dump, there's velocity and there's things happening. And I'm just like, in America, I'm just like, oh my God, I'm going to get such slap back or whatever the hell it is. It's
no, I have a whole routine about how this country has so much water that we make a mockery of it. We have water parks that we slide down. We have toilets where we fill them with so much water. And then like you'll sit down and like you won't take a shit. If there's pee, you'll have to flush it and get 10 new gallons so you can shit into the clean water instead of the dirty water.
I remember remember the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge?
Yeah.
Which, by the way, is the most privileged social media challenge I've ever fucking seen.
Interesting. I never thought of
At
that.
least from my perspective.
Yeah.
I'm like, you are wasting a fuck ton of water to look cool on social media, right? And then I was like really shitting on these people. And then Matt Damon came along. Did you see his ALS?
I don't think so.
He took water out of the toilet bowl and like poured it on himself and his family. Right? And I was just like, I get what you're doing, but you asshole. Like, you ruined this whole thing for everyone.
Right.
Because you took it to the most, like, moral high ground level that you could. And now everybody who's doing this seems like an asshole. Matt Damon.
That's great. Thank you, Matt. What's the hackiest bit you've ever done?
Oh, God. I have a new special on Netflix. I'm kidding. Fuck. I don't know. I definitely had like 10 solid minutes about how men don't listen and women talk too much. I've definitely gone down that road like 8 or 9 years ago. So I definitely had that.
Yeah.
And then just sort of unnecessary dick jokes. Like I've had a lot of unnecessary dick jokes.
Yeah.
But I don't think a special is a special without at least one.
Well, if you're a Carlin fan, you understand that you can do cerebral, topical, political, and then throw some fart jokes in there on top of it.
Yes.
You know?
Yes. Also because, I don't know if you agree with me or not, but I don't think of a comedy special on a platform as a comedy show, as exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
You know, on a platform like Martin Scorsese's box with The Irishman and my box with Landing are right next to each other, and they're the same size fucking box. Like, think about how long we've waited for that as comics.
Yeah.
Where I don't compete with your marketing budget anymore, and I don't compete with your production budget. I now just compete for your attention.
Yeah.
Right? And by the way, I can give you more dynamics than the average movie in a stand-up comedy show.
Mm-hmm.
But then that means in a stand-up special, there's got to be silliness and a little bit of discomfort and all of that stuff.
Right.
So you need the dick jokes. You need the fart jokes. You definitely do.
Right.
And like for me in a special, if I'm not secure enough to sit in a silence for too long just yet. Like I'm terrified in that silence. So I need something silly coming up around the corner. And especially in this show, because there were, I think, 4 silences that were like 20 seconds each, which is a long time in a show. I'm like, I need something silly. I have to have it.
I like it. And finally, what have you turned down recently?
Ooh, good Lord. I turned down Indian IT guy in like 2 projects.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I did. Because I'm like, and no aversion to playing an IT guy, but I'm like, which IT guy? You know, IT guy with family, IT guy who has something to say, IT guy who's in love, IT guy who's violent.
Yeah.
No, just IT guy. And I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. And then
you see Camille Nanjiani doing it, and you're like, fuck, man, he's nailing it. He found something there.
He's IT guy with biceps. Fuck this guy. Also, he got fit as fuck. Like that.
You're ridiculous.
Can I tell you though? Like, if that call comes my way, like the Marvel phone call.
Yeah.
Fuck all sanctimony. I will do the steroids and go to the gym and
get real tattoos.
I will get real tattoos. I will do whatever it fucking
That's right.
takes.
That's right.
Because that's movies now.
Yep.
You know, I don't think real movies, outside of like Tom Cruise resurrecting the movie business once every 4 years.
Yeah.
With his insanity.
Yeah.
Did you see it, by the way? Did you see Top
Gun?
Yeah.
Fucking great.
Right?
Loved it. It's what movies are supposed to do. You know, it's and you know, and I love the original, and it's so homoerotic, and it's shamelessly homoerotic, and it lets guys sit in a theater and experience a little bit of gay feelings, but at the same time, they have no idea they're experiencing it.
But I don't like. Do you know why you're rooting for Tom Cruise? It's because he's short.
Yeah, says
That's
the man who's how tall?
Same height as Tom Cruise, or maybe slightly taller. Maybe, but. That's why you're rooting for him.
Yeah, it's true.
Like,
it's true.
Inherently as a man, you're just like, look at this tiny fucking guy doing all of his stunts.
Yeah.
Like, that's why he gets you.
I love
like,
it.
If Brad Pitt did all of those stunts, you'd be like, fuck, that guy's a douchebag.
Yeah, right.
Look at this tiny guy jumping out of planes.
That's why the bad guy is, his nemesis is always tall and blonde and blue-eyed, very Aryan looking.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that theory.
You know, America, you just need to be nicer to short people.
Yeah.
You're just nice to Tom Cruise. But do you remember when the Obamas went to China? It is the strangest visual I've ever seen in my life. Because like Barack and Michelle are like 2 feet taller than any of the people that they met.
Right.
Because Americans are tall people. On average, you're tall people.
Right.
But this little guy, Tom Cruise, that's why we root for him.
All right, listen, Veer Das, I can't tell people enough. Check out Landing. It's on Netflix right now. It's big, and you're getting good placement. I see it pop up on the homepage sometimes.
Touchwood.
Yeah. Also, you can go check out. You got a tour coming up. You want to promote?
Yeah, I'm going to be touring America March 1st onwards. So just go to Veerdas. That's VIRDAS.in, and you can find me in the States.
Beautiful. I love it. Well, listen, man, it was really nice meeting you. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you for having me, sir. I appreciate it.
Okay. Good luck.